Well, hello everybody. We're going to have a good talk today about the party system right here in Canada. A good example of monarchical systems, why they've never worked, and what we're seeing today, which is a rise of an old world order. And I want to go through some highlights that we've all seen front page of most newspapers, whether you're rural, a city person, doesn't matter. It's big headlines. Complete stuff that was promised not to be brought forward, we're seeing brought forward now. And a lot of people, conservative folks, messaging me. I've had so many people message me about different leaders running in the Conservative Party, and I chuckle because it's old narratives, old as dirt in the political system. I've been in politics for a very long time. Usually the quiet behind the scenes guy, always in the back rooms. And that all changed for me leading up to 2019 as I had enough. I had enough of the political system. I had not enough of the rot. And then it brings me to this now today is Pierre Poilievre still trying to squeeze more and more. I'm sure many of you getting the same messages I'm getting. And, oh, did you join the party yet? And other persons who want to run for leadership. I'm watching it happen in my province, Alberta, already, as each potential leader or those who are going to come forward have so many narratives for all of you, all on social conservatism or liberalization or what would be labor wants and needs. But the funny part, folks, is absolutely none of any of these divisive policies are in anyone's platform. Medical freedom, the biggest joke of them all, lots of people gravitating to that in one group. Not a one leader promises you any of that, and it's pretty easy to tell you why. I can tell you in absolute reality why that's never going to be in any mainstream platform. Zero. None whatsoever. And they can flirt with people's ideas and tell them what they want to hear and take your money, but it will never be in their platform. It's very simple. Vaccination rates, COVID-19 in Canada alone, those over the age of 65, the largest vaccinated of the population, those who don't want to deal with the elderly in the old folks home, families don't want people unvaccinated in there. It's not on anyone's agenda. It's not on the medical community's agenda, which means anyone running in politics, you won't get that. You won't get that in any platform because no one will win. Now, there are leaders, potential leaders, who have not a hope in hell of winning any leadership, but they corral followers and those in their one-track minds or their singular agenda, thinking that they have a hope in heck of getting that into policy. The answer is none of you have a hope in hell. If you didn't watch Aaron O'Toole in 2015, red Tory, all of a sudden alt-blue conservative for the last run, and he flipped back red Tory immediately upon taking leadership. Didn't win an election because he wasn't liberal enough. That's the sad reality of Canada. The density of population in key cities. The GTA is a prime one in Ontario. Lived it for a year. Went through all the communities and got to see everybody. And I can tell you in mass majority, those policy agendas by the Liberals rule the roost. Rule the roost. We watch Canadians ignorant of property rights, believing that somehow, any of these political leaders federally have authority over it, because I can assure you, legally they don't. People try to tell me, oh, Canada's not a country. Oh, they can't do this, they can't do that. But they do it. And it's the ignorance of the average voter the average Canadian who doesn't know their Constitution, doesn't know the promise of something better forever and a day since the founding of this country, whether you like it or not. It's been there for you, waiting for the masses to move premiers to cement that for you. But none do. All of them go to the mainstream parties who have singular agendas that all match each other to a T. And again, all of these policies that divide you never end up in any platforms. Property rights does not belong in federal privy. It's not constitutionally part of what the federal government's allowed to do. It's unconstitutional. But the only way to get a challenge is to get a constitution written, cemented provincially. It's not just your property rights, it's entirely all of your civil rights. Those talking about natural law and by God's grace you get these rights, you don't. You don't. They're part of your civil rights, and sure, they're promised to you, but they've never been cemented in Canada. Never, not once, not ever. You will find all of these rights cemented in the United States of America per each and every single one of the 50 states of America. Their constitutions are much larger and more in depth by a large whopping margin. Your average state constitution in the United States of America is between 175 and 450 pages long. Some are even longer than that. Some of them continually change and grow and add more and more pages as the years and decades go by, minimizing federal overreach. In Canada, you have zero. Just like the United States, upon independence, that was established in their federal constitution, called for and divided the powers between state and federal government. The United States of America. Canada, the Constitutional Act of Canada, 1867, consolidated again in 1982, but the laws of how you're to be governed, rules of governance, and accountability are all written there, as well as the massive transfer of most of your civil rights, not your natural laws, your other cockamamie concepts many come up with that aren't written in your Constitution. None whatsoever. I've asked these groups, these people, over and over again, show me where any of that's written. And they can't answer that. But you can clearly find where it is written, your civil rights, mass amounts of other huge rights that dwarf all the federal powers that no Canadian has, that parties promise through different would-be leaders who aren't going to win the party, who can't do what they say because it's not their privy, it's privy of the province. And over again we watch province after province, election after election, not one party, not one would-be premier ever promised to cement any of that for any of you, because it would mean giving up most of the divine first class's rights to the crown property of Canada back to the First Peoples and back to all 38 million Canadians. Well, they don't want to do that because then they would lose their power and hold over all of you. There's no such thing as natural law in Canada. That is a cockamamie concept made up by lunatics and radicals. Radicals you'll find attached to the crown. This has always been Canada, and it's always going to be as long as you, the people, you all the First People, talk about sovereignty that's a civil right belonging to privy of the province, the province you reside in, or your nation resides in, or you, the regular Canadian folks, reside in. You can get all those powers on any given election, next election, if a premier candidate would run on it. Now, there is one in the province of Alberta, namely Brian Jean, who absolutely is campaigning on that. Unfortunately, Jason Kenney, the reigning premier, doesn't want to turn over leadership, to have a leadership contest till late in the year, knowing that 3 months after that the writ will have to be dropped and an election will happen, while the NDP New Democrat Party is campaigning a full year ahead of the election, which all parties should be doing. But the Conservative Party, in a majority in power right now, isn't doing that because you have an angry premier who doesn't want to give the power to you, the people. He doesn't want a guy like Brian Jean bringing you real constitutionalism, fixing Canada, at least at the provincial level, which is literally 65% of everything all of you want. That's your medical freedoms, your water rights, your property rights, your rights to parental controls over education, for example, your rights to your children, the state not being allowed to come and take your kids, take your various properties, and I mean all of them, from guns to everything, is all privy of the province. But again, there has not been one constitution in this fake, undemocratic federalism they call Canada, because it really is fake. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that there are 0 constitutions, charters, provincial Bill of Rights that cement the federal powers have absolutely nothing to do with what's promised in Section 92 for each and every one of us. Since Canada's inception, you've never got any of that. It belongs entirely to your politicians, who then at the provincial level, through Lieutenant Governor, constitutionally, are then sworn to the Prime Minister, whomever you elect. That is literally your king of all kings. A complete, full-on autocracy. It's why guys like Justin Trudeau can ban guns at will, can take farms away at will, throw reserve Indians away at will, sell their land off at will. In fact, they empower municipalities through the province to do the same, to acquire people's land. I'm going to tell you some real statistics about Canada. Legal gun ownership is the lowest it's ever been in all of Canada's history per person per capita, meaning it gets harder and harder to be a legal firearms owner. You want to know what else is going down? The amount of farmers per capita, per person per capita in Canada has been going down at about the same rate. You know what else is going down? Businesses per person per capita. As the population expands, there's less and less businesses. Now, there's a couple provinces who've gone ahead of it, but in large majority, as Canada as a whole, it's going down. This isn't, again, rocket science. It's not hidden from you. It's published in Statistics Canada. You can get all of this info. Not made up, truthful, verifiable, and 100% accurate. The reality is the bills grow for you, the people. Your wages don't keep up with the amount of debt your government accumulates, and their wealth continues to skyrocket, as well as the transfer to the elite first-class citizenry, which is largely foreign, who's been given Canadian citizenship status without any real work through immigration. Some of them don't even live in Canada. We have Canadians, apparently, who live in Hong Kong who've never stepped foot in Canada. This goes for lots of countries throughout the Commonwealth and throughout the world. Anywhere the Commonwealth has had a foothold in, you're going to find this in large number. And those are the people taking your wealth. It's a transfer. That's what the government does. They fill their back pockets at absolutely your expense. There's not much left for the people going forward. There's not going to be much left at all through the party system. They lie to you every election, federally, provincially, divide you on a number of policies, and then you never see more than 3 policies promised ever enacted. And usually you end up in a 4-year period with, on average, by the numbers, provincially and federally, doesn't matter, pick your province, you'll find there's between 75 and 125 policies you've never even heard about enacted into laws that you, the people, didn't want, your parties didn't campaign on. They all do it, and it absolutely costs you everything. That's the truth of Canada. The sick corruption, it's throughout many of the monarchies and unitary states. It's been going on for at least 30 years. It's getting more aggressive each and every day. Canada leads the world on this file, and in fact they corrupt the United States of America. They've all but corrupted the Democrats currently, and they're trying like mad to abolish the American Constitution and make it the United States of America, where, just like Canada, it is basically the United Federal Party of Canada. Pick your poison, liberal or conservative, in large margin. You always see NDP team up with the Liberals anyway, and Labour, which is provincial, which is a provincial power, that's another privy of provincial constitutionalism. Again, none of you have any, so your federal government can't back you up in any of it. You only see the Supreme Court act when there's large-scale violence and civil unrest. That's what Canadians had learned for many, many decades. Not the political party system, the people themselves. And now you're seeing the government has gotten so strong that they restrict that, and people don't even protest. It's not even legal to protest in Canada anymore. You must do what your divine politicians tell you to. Like I said, a major way out of it is provincial constitutionalism. And you'll find good luck getting any mainstream party to want to do that. 65% of everything you should have is found there. Section 92, read it. Those are monumental in civil rights and so many rights that people try to define as natural law or divine law or rights of people born with. And you can enshrine that through constitutionalism, but you need to have conventions, real conventions, for and by the people. You need experts to do that. That's the work we're doing. That's the party we wish to do across Canada. And we promote every provincial party who will put that forward. But so many think that 3 or 4 people in a group can write a constitution for the vast amount of the populations. And that will never work. That will never work. And people have to know world history. You need experts for that. And until we get that, until we can stop getting people to buy into the baloney that's been going on forever and a day, people making up narratives because they watched a YouTube video, they have 0 world credible experts, not a one. I've got about 167 doctorates, the most published around the world, who on any given day I can phone and get help on a wide range of topics. We're going through it with the Catholic Church and the First Peoples now. It's June 1st. I can release a lot now. I can come out and tell people a lot about what's going on. And you'd be surprised what has been discovered in residential school, far beyond the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Far beyond. All it took was a good education in international law, specifically taking a 1-year program with the International Criminal Court, the real one, and even a guy like myself with a few first-year law classes under my belt from my education was able to get that work done. And only get it done, bring forward a pile of doctorates who are extremely interested, and it's going to be an interesting 28 days. We sent off the presentation, it's public now. As we get through the next couple days educating the chiefs first, all that's going to be made available to Canadians, and it's going to be something to see if we can't move this mountain called Canada, as South Africa was moved when people just didn't know any better. We're just too institutionalized. That included Africans themselves and the mainstream white South African minority. Now in Canada, it's a role reversal, but the outcomes are the same. And if done right, we could see Canada get imposed to be fixed. We'll see how corrupted the world is right now. It's a big battle. Russia, China versus UK, France. Somewhat USA with Joe Biden at the helm, but I have tremendous faith in the American Constitution. I even have tremendous faith in the majority of Democrat world experts published I have under my belt, who agree in principle on a lot of the legality and are not going to go along with the lunatic Canadian narrative. It should be exciting. The next weeks to come, and the more we share, a lot of people are going to enjoy it. I hope a lot of first people start coming on, Canadians as well too, and start to learn that how we've been brought up is not how the world works. It's what we're told to believe. It's the idea that this country is a tremendously smaller amount than what Canadians know it to be. We can look at certain provinces like Alberta where there has been a vast amount of private property released, but folks, 30% is in the hands of Albertans. Ontario, it's less than 13%, about 10%. It's why the explosive amount of housing crisis, where there should not be a housing crisis, not in a country of such vast size, such vast resources, in all of it, wood, water, paper, and I'm talking fresh water, largest sources in the world, largest sources of almost every resource, at least for 38 million people. It's hard pressed for anybody to come forward and say that Canadians and First Peoples in large margin should not be the most wealthy citizens in the world, not by a little margin, folks, by an explosive wide margin. But it is the corruption of government that keeps you down. Keeps you down by restricting you from lands, obviously all the First Peoples. But you know what? Canadians nonetheless either. They've got you tricked into believing that living in the state of a UK island nation of 66 million people in such a small area of land is somehow how you should live here in Canada, how you should be removed from your federalism that is proven around the world for large countries the only way to govern. And since 1867, I'm going to say it again, there is not 1 ounce of true federalism, meaning the powers cemented of the provinces over absolute division of powers. There is none. You elect full-on autocrats attached to a crown design in the federal constitution that allows them to transfer all of that away from all of you to the federal government, whomever you elect to be your autocratic dictator, king or queen. It's been forever and a day. It's why all the worst decisions are constantly made at the absolute expense of the citizens. Now, socialists gravitate to unitary systems or full-on dictatorships. But I'm going to tell you, in those systems, labor rights don't exist. they always end up in absolute forced labor, slave labor. They always have been that way. And anyone telling you otherwise is just a liar and very ignorant or completely ignoring of history as it's always been. There's nothing wrong with unions or people wanting to explore small business. In fact, either narrative is protected in international law, and for the most part, which these are civil rights, are enshrined in almost every federalism. Where they're not enshrined is unitary states or full-on constitutional monarchies, communisms, full dictatorships, and countries like Canada without a true federalism, where nobody thought it would be important to enshrine those rights in a binding document, a written document of your highest laws of your region, province, state, call it whichever one you want. There's more names than that all over the world. And you'll find that all those with those kind of founding documents are doing tremendously better than the country of Canada. Countries like Canada, so vastly spread out, cannot function successfully outside of real federalism. If you don't believe me, just look at the United States of America and the Russian Federation. Two prime examples of comparative-sized countries. Difference is all the land's available to the people in both those countries. Now, do they have parks and government lands? Yes, but it is nowhere near to the massive size and scale of what the federal and provincial autocratic governments hold over all of you and keep away from all of you. That's First Peoples and Canadians alike. We can settle that. It can be done in a large portion provincially, which will lead to the settlement of the federal for all peoples. Absolutely, first and foremost, all the First Peoples. It's the only way to go forward. And anyone telling you not to do that, or trying to get you to hate the First Peoples, or push a narrative that is largely racist and incorrect, is only trying to keep from you everything that you're promised in this world since 1945. And there are very few countries like Canada that exist anymore and are not to exist, not in that way, shape, or form. There's still a tremendous amount of wealth available to the people. It far outpaces any of the debts accumulated provincially and federally. It's the kind of wealth that would make all the First Peoples extremely wealthy and absolutely reset every one of the remaining 38 million Canadians to give them a shot at a real life forward, free of all of what the government has done to you for many, many decades. That's the truth. And until we face that truth, we're always going to be a loser country. We're going to watch our rights eroded over and over again. You're going to watch property ownership go down in all facets, every single one, for all peoples. You're all going to fight over a handful of peanuts instead of having your very own bag, or you know what, your own farm of peanuts, an entire mass amount of acres of peanuts. Think about that, folks. Tripping over, as they say, quarters to pick up pennies. That's what the politicians have you doing. And until you have people running in provincial politics narrating constitutionalism for and by all the people, by real world credible experts, for every single man, woman, and child in this country over the age 18, you got nothing, and you're never going to see the light of day. Thanks, everybody. That's my video. Enjoy your night. Share because it's credible. Share because it's real. Share because it's verifiable. And anything else is just more propaganda. More people falling for the crown, falling for those elites, playing the game. And the jig's almost up. The guns are gone. Drugs are now your new going to be hobbies. Canadians are only going to be allowed to work for very little, and your hobbies are drugs. That's your healthy hobby. That's what all the governments want to see. And if you don't believe me, again, go read Opium Wars 1 and 2 by the royal family. A staple of the old world order, a staple of every monarchy in history, always, forever, and a day. Real history in our lifetimes. It's sick, and people are going to fall for it over and over and over again. Because why? First person Canadian of every color, creed, religion, ethnicity, culture, value system, language, you will all fall for it identically. That's why I know there is no difference between races. I've met them all, seen them all. I've been across Canada, and people are easily bamboozled by a corrupted system that has and is forever and a day. That's my video. Don't be a fool. Share it. Get it out there. Bye now.